How Humans Became Space Dwarfs, written by the Stabby, Brent. It was an utterly exhausting job being a representative of the Galactic Forum's Office of Colonial Litigation, and the reason was the paperwork, specifically the human paperwork. When Bablik stated this to others, some occasionally asked, "Do you mean the paperwork filed by humans or caused by humans?" To which, in a suitably human fashion, Bablik would answer yes. Bablik was currently working under the assumption that humans were a strain of fungus. Pioneer ships of other races should go off into space and find interesting worlds, fertile and blessed with the abundance of riches, seemingly uninhabited. Yet the moment the scouts touched down on a short ape creature, likely one that was simultaneously hairless, yet sprouting an entire hedge from their chin, would pop out from the crowd and shout a greeting. Usually, they'd be smoking something they'd found growing nearby on the chance that it was a narcotic. If anything on the planet could be fermented into alcohol, a pint of it would be nearby. Even if it was 150 proof or more, there'd be a pint of it. If the would-be colonists didn't give up there and there, after several hours of talking, jeering, shouting, threats, tears, cheering, and assertions that one party had fornicated with the mother of the other, not necessarily in that order, the humans would eventually reveal the entrance to their colony and lower their sensor baffles long enough to show that there was indeed a substantial subterranean facility there. Then the baffles would be raised again, along with either pint glasses or middle digits, sometimes both, and off the would-be pioneer ships went. Sooner or later, that led to a complaint to Babik's office, whereupon it would turn out that the humans had, in fact, filed in absolutely all the required paperwork, in triplicate, no less, and submitted it to the office, physically, along with a mountain of other correspondence. The Declaration of Settlement for the world of Monodromo Solidus had been nestled in a 24,000-page delivery of important documentation, sandwiched between an article on solar panel maintenance and a handwritten note asking if he needed his gutters cleaned. The worst part was that technically the humans had done nothing wrong. There was no actual rule saying you couldn't hand the paperwork in on physical paper, and there never would be because there wasn't a rule against filibustering either. The last time anyone had tried, the human delegate had unleashed a 17-hour speech with pre-prepared slides on the importance, practicality, spiritual significance, ecological benefits, taxonomic validity, and security benefits of traditional paper-based bureaucratic systems. 3 members of the forum were hospitalized and 7 others retired in despair. As is befitting humanity's unnatural ability to invoke a tangent, one has seen fit to inject itself into the narrative flow at this juncture. Earlier, it was said that Bablik was currently working under the assumption. Since that statement was made, Bablik has had several other thoughts, and those thoughts have led to some actions. In the time you spent reading about the human behavior, Bablik has come to a very different conclusion, one that propelled him through the various buildings of the Galactic Forum to the office of one Derek Derrickson, current representative of humanity within the Galactic Forum. Just so you know, he's not happy. Here he comes. The door to Derek Derrickson's office slammed open. Bablik, a tall avian form whose white robe sharply contrasted his black feathers, strode across the dark room and slammed a printout onto Derek's desk. "Why are you like this?" he roared at the orange beard with a pale man growing out of it. Derek glanced down. "I'm not like that at all." Bablik held on to his fury. "What's that supposed to mean? That's a piece of paper. I'm not at all like a piece of paper. Not made of trees for a start." "This is a complaint, is it?" Derek asked innocently. "About you, really?" "Yes, and—" Bablik paused. Derek hadn't been smoking a pipe when he entered, but now there was a dark oak ball bubbling in the corner of his mouth, letting out foul smoke. He shook off the distraction. "Your lot have done it again. You bloody well snuck into the planet when nobody was looking." "Did we? I didn't notice." "Yes, you bloody well did. You filed the paperwork." Bablik's nails scraped across the hardwood desk in frustration. "Why are you humans insistent acting this way? Why are you always popping up where you're not wanted? Drunk and belligerent and petty as all hell." "I take offense to that. We're not always drunk. It's 8:45 in the morning and you've already drunk half a pint of whiskey by the smell of you." "It's 3 in the afternoon somewhere," Derek answered, as he made it slightly more than half a pint drunk. Just, Bublick shook his head and let out a long, defeated sigh. Why did you decide you wanted to live like this? Derek reached under his desk and drew out 2 bottles of beer. He popped the caps off the corner of his desk and slid one over to the exasperated avian. There was a chap who once said that if you wanted to understand a species, you should study their art. Ironically, that chap was fictional, but he made a good point all the same. The stories folks tell each other, stories they want to tell each other, or feel they need to tell each other, those will all wind together into a sort of meta-story, you see. If folks keep telling stories about monsters under the bed, it probably means they're scared of something. But stories are also lessons, yeah? The boy who cried wolf got it bit by a wolf because he yelled about wolves when there were no wolves. So no one believed him when there was a wolf. That's a good lesson. We humans have tried to learn about you lot from your stories, but we learn from ourselves from our own stories as well. Bublick's brow furrowed as the human took a long swig from the beer bottle. You learned from your own stories? Aye. A lot of our stories, the ones who we ought to be rather than what we should be scared of, all had a dark notion built into them. The good times would only come after our darkest days. The new world of peaceful coexistence and enlightenment had to be built on the ashes of the old, that sort of thing. Our best and brightest took that to heart. So they did. When we humans were just on one world, our leaders didn't fancy sharing it. They built weapons capable of killing us all, and then threatened to use them and get their way. They did what they want, took what they wanted, never gave a toss about what ordinary folk thought. Anyone complained too loud, just make being angry at the government a crime and arrest them. Simple as. But the smart ones, our best and brightest, they saw the pot was boiling, and they acted. They learned the lesson, like I said. The better world had to come after the dark time. So they went to our politicians, and they said how the world-ending war was inevitable. So some funds ought to be go building bunkers and shelters and such. Just for the important people, naturally. Oh, but you would have to build a few extra for the common folk, just enough that they'd feel safe and not upset the gravy train. When the dark day came, the lucky few fled to their bunkers, and the politicians went to theirs. They all died pretty much instantly, seeing as their shelters were rigged to kill them. Every single politician on Earth suffocated in 24 hours. The real shelters, the ones that worked, were chock full of folks we actually needed to make a better world. The engineers and the scientists, sure, but mostly the common as muck types, the ones who actually get their hands dirty and do the work. Not just give a seminar about what a great world we'd all have if only we'd give them all of our money. But when you live underground with barely enough to survive, everything got to be proper. Every I dotted, every T crossed. Entire generations lived and died under the regime that demanded absolute efficiency and precision. When we were finally ready to rise up and rebuild the world, we kept that attitude. When we came out into the stars, we keep it still. We've had our dark time, we've had our great loss. And now we humans that remain have inherited a bright, shining future in the stars. One that shall only persist if we all adhere always to the rules and record everything we do in exhaustive detail. Bublick sat in stunned silence for so long that the silence itself became a statement. Ah, it warms my heart to see how my tale has moved you, Derek gushed. No, it puzzles me. I can understand living underground during a nuclear war, but why keep it up now? That it doesn't explain the smoking, or the drinking, or the need to turn everything into an argument. Well, the smoking was originally a way to hide the persistent hygiene problems of living in close quarters when showers are in short supply. Alcohol's ever been a way to escape the hardships of... By this point, Bublick had risen from his chair. You're doing it again. I know you are. You're just spouting bollocks to distract me from something so that you can... Hold on. What time is it? 1 minute past 9, Derek replied helpfully. Oh, damn it, you knew. Somehow, you knew I'd be so mad about your bloody stupid behavior that I'd storm in here, and all you had to do was keep me talking until the deadline to file a motion to annul your last covert paperwork attack has passed. Derek raised what were either his eyebrows or a pair of passing caterpillars. Oh, for goodness, the forum is in session, and I'm not there. He rose from his seat in the buster and reached for his ceremonial axe, but paused. The human sagged in relief. I just remembered. My apprentice, Prof. Brofson, asked me yesterday if he could fly solo today, and I told him that I felt that he was ready. Derek let out a chuckle. Woo! Can you imagine how embarrassing it would be to have been for us to not be present at a meeting? So, this wasn't a trick. The human shook his head. Public, my friend, I truly am sorry if we've inadvertently upset you with our little foibles. But you know, people who build their society in a wake of a global holocaust tend to not trust storage media that can be wiped out by electromagnetic pulses. And I can't very well be blamed for folks wanting to share our writings and services with you and yours, can I? I suppose not, Public conceded, well aware he'd lost all momentum as he was gently steered towards the door. Well, look, in the interest of galactic peace, I'll try to get them to cut down on the junk mail, all right? Oh, and as a treat, I'll get my cousin to find a copy of some classic media for you to enjoy. Star Trek, Star Wars, Stargate. And on the off chance he finds a good TV show that doesn't have star in the name, I'll have him throw that in as well. Everything you could ever want to know about humans is in there. It's very kind, Derek. Thank you. Have a good day, Derek said as he closed the door. He turned around and studied his room, now devoid of an angry avian guest. Good talk, he said to himself. Now, I better write some of that bollocks down in case someone quizzes me on it later. End of story. I'd greatly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Caspar Arnholtz, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.